You have seen this 100 times. The steps of Baelor's Sept. Ice rising over a kneeling man. The most honorable head in the Seven Kingdoms, falling into the dirt. You have never seen what happens next. In the dirt, the head opens its eyes, and they are red. The headless body does not fall. It reaches down, takes its own head by the hair, and sets it back on its neck. And where the sword cut, the wound seals shut with black stone. Ned Stark stands up, and the slaughter begins. The night is dark and full of theories. What if Ned Stark rose from his own execution? Not raised by fire, not by the others, raised by his own son, reaching back from the end of the world to turn the last man of honor in Westeros into a weapon of pure winter. This is the story of the Silent Wolf, a thing that does not parley, does not sleep, and does not stop until every debt of Stark blood is paid in stone. 4,000 likes and we make part 2. Discord's in the description. Let's begin. Act 1. The Red Resurrection. The sun beats down on the plaza of Baelor's Sept, gilding the gold and crimson cloaks of the Lannister Guard, and there is nothing about this morning that promises a miracle. Eddard Stark kneels on the marble, gaunt, hollowed out by a black cell and a bargain he made for his daughters' lives. The bargain where he stands in front of the realm and calls himself a traitor so that Sansa and Arya might live. He has said the words. He stood on these steps and told the realm that he plotted against his king, that Joffrey is the true and lawful heir, that everything he ever believed about the crown was a lie. And he said it because Varys came to his cell in the dark and made him understand the arithmetic. Confess, and Sansa lives. Confess, and Arya, wherever she has run to, is not hunted. Confess, and the 2 girls are worth more than one man's pride. It is the hardest thing Eddard Stark has ever done, harder than any battle, because it asks him to be everything he has spent his life refusing to be. And he does it. He kneels in front of the people who will remember him as an oathbreaker, and he spends the last coin of his honor to buy his daughters a future. And he actually believes, in the last clean moment of his life, that the bargain will hold. It is not going to hold, because the boy on the throne has never in his life understood the concept of enough. That is the true crime on these steps, the one the old gods are about to answer, not the death of an honest man, the breaking of a bargain made to save 2 children. The South did not merely kill Ned Stark. It took the one thing he traded his soul's peace for, and it threw that away too, for sport, in front of his daughter. Somewhere far to the north, in a cave in the roots of the world, a boy who can see all of this feels something in him go very cold and very certain. If honor cannot save them, if a man can give up everything and the South will still take even that, then honor was never the answer. Something older was. Joffrey says to the crowd, "My mother wished me to let Lord Eddard take the black, and Lady Sansa has begged mercy for her father. But they have the soft hearts of women. So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilyn, bring me his head." The plaza comes apart. Somewhere in the crowd, Sansa is screaming and cannot reach him. Yoren of the Watch is shoving toward Arya, turning her face away, and that one small mercy is the last decent thing that happens on those steps. Ice comes up, Valyrian steel, smoke dark, older than the kingdom it is about to unmake. It falls, and Eddard Stark's head leaves his shoulders. For one heartbeat, the world gets exactly the thing it expected. The crowd roars, that low, feral sound a mob makes when it has been given a death. Cersei Lannister lets out a breath she has held for a fortnight. Varys closes his eyes. Sansa faints into the arms of a stranger. Then every bird in the Red Keep's rookery goes silent at once. The wind stops. Not dies down, stops, as if the whole city has been sealed under glass. The sun is still there, but the light goes thin and gray, and a cold comes up out of the marble under the block. A cold that has no business anywhere near King's Landing in high summer. A cold that makes the nearest gold cloaks step back without knowing why they have done it. In the dirt, the severed head opens its eyes. They are not the gray of the north. They are deep, burning crimson, lit from within like the sap of a heart tree. And they are looking at nothing, and they are looking at everything. The headless body does not fall. That is the moment the screaming starts among the guards. Not the head, the body. The way it stays kneeling upright when a body simply should not. Then it moves. One hand comes up, the fingers already darkening, the skin going the color and hardness of old petrified wood, and it reaches down into the dirt and takes its own head by the hair. Slowly, with a deliberateness that is worse than any violence, Eddard Stark lifts his head and sets it back upon his neck. Where the blade cut, no blood flows. The wound seals itself with a seam of black stone, a scar that will never fade, the South's betrayal written across his throat forever. Ned Stark stands. He does not speak. He does not breathe. You can see it, the absolute stillness of a chest that has stopped needing air. He turns his head, and the red eyes find Joffrey Baratheon, and the boy king who ordered this makes a small sound and stumbles backward into his own Kingsguard. Sir Ilyn Payne stands frozen, ice still in his hands. The king's justice, who has no tongue to scream with even now, who has taken 100 heads and never once seen one look back. Ned reaches out and takes the greatsword from him. Ilyn does not resist. The Valyrian ripples along the blade catch the light and begin, faintly, to glow the same red as Ned's eyes, as if the sword remembers whose family forged its name into the north and is glad to be home. Janos Slynt shouts to the guards, "Kill it! Kill that thing! Shoot it down, all of you, now!" Ned Stark moves. He is not a man anymore, and he does not move like one. He does not run. He glides across the scaffold like a shadow crossing a wall, and ice comes around once, almost gently, and Janos Slynt's head is off his shoulders before the last word has finished leaving them. The silent wolf has begun his work. And in the crowd, a small girl in filthy boy's clothes has stopped fighting the grip of the man dragging her away. Because the man dragging her away has also stopped. Yoren of the Night's Watch has cut throats and dug graves and seen every ugly thing the world keeps in its cellar. And he stands frozen, with one scarred hand clamped over Arya Stark's eyes, to spare her the sight of her father's death. A beat too late, and now for the wrong reason. Because the thing she should be spared from is not the death. It is what comes after it. Yoren says to Arya, "Don't look, girl. Whatever's happening up there, you keep your eyes shut and you keep walking. That is not for you." Arya answers, "That's my father. Yoren, that's my father. He's standing up. Why is he standing up? They cut off his..." Yoren says, "I know what they did. I saw it same as you. And I'm telling you, the man standing back up is not the man they took the head off of. And the kindest thing you'll ever do for yourself is not learn the difference. Now walk. We're for the wall. And the wall's the one place in this rotten kingdom that thing up there has no reason to follow." He is wrong about that, though neither of them can know it yet. But that is a long road away, and for now, Yoren hauls a stunned girl out through a side street, while the plaza empties in screaming waves behind them. And Arya Stark carries out of King's Landing the one thing nobody else who loved Ned Stark will have. She saw him rise. She knows, in a way Catelyn and Robb and Sansa never will, that whatever came home to the north is not a story and not a ghost. She looked at it. It had her father's face. Hold on to that. It is going to matter more than anything else in this tale, at the very end of it. Act 2. The Plague of the Red Keep. Here is the thing the songs never tell you about a monster. The terror is not in what it does. The terror is in what it does not do. Ned Stark does not chase the fleeing crowd. He does not cut his way through the small folk who trampled each other to watch him die. He does not burn the city or rally the mob or make a single speech. Joffrey is dragged off the steps by Sandor Clegane and half the Kingsguard, and the Silent Wolf lets them go. Because Joffrey is a boy who gave an order, and the Silent Wolf is not hunting boys who give orders. He is hunting names. And he takes them in an order that only he understands, and that order is what breaks the Red Keep long before he ever reaches it. Inside the castle, Cersei Lannister does everything right. The gates are barred, the gold cloaks are tripled on every door. The children are moved to the innermost apartments with a dozen swords apiece. She is not a fool, and she does not panic. And none of it matters, because you cannot bar a door against a thing that does not use doors. Grand Maester Pycelle is the first they find. He is in his solar, among his candles and his half-truths, and he is not cut, not bruised, not marked by any blade. He is frozen solid, his skin gone a translucent, glassy blue, the chains of his office fused to his chest inside a single block of ice. And across his desk, in his own blood gone to black dust before it could even run, is one word: traitor. Word of it goes through the castle staff like plague. By nightfall, half the servants have fled into the city, and the ones who remain will not walk a corridor alone. The Silent Wolf moves through the secret ways of the Red Keep as though he laid the stones himself. The passages Varys uses, the tunnels Maegor built to murder the men who built them. And in a dark turn of one of those corridors, he finds Peter Baelish, master of coin, trying to leave a sinking ship with a strongbox of someone else's gold. Peter Baelish says to the shadow, "Ned? Gods be good, is that you? Listen to me. Whatever you are now, I can give you the city. I can give you the gold cloaks. They answer to my coin, not the crown. We had an understanding once. I can be useful. I am always useful. That is the whole of me. I am the most useful man you will ever..." The shadow steps into the torchlight, and Littlefinger stops talking, because the thing in front of him has a face he knows, ash gray and still, with a black seam across the throat where a sword went through, and eyes like two coals from a fire that burns things down to truth. It does not want the city. It does not want the gold cloaks. It does not want anything a clever man can offer, and Peter Baelish has spent his entire life being the cleverest man in a room full of people who wanted things. And for the first time, he is in a room with something that wants nothing at all. He has no coin for that. Nobody does. Ice comes up. They find Littlefinger's head the next morning, set carefully in the seat of the Iron Throne, where he always wanted to sit. Where his eyes were, there are 2 red weirwood leaves. Nobody in King's Landing can say how a heart tree leaf came to be inside a keep that has no weirwood. The nearest is 1,000 miles north. And that question frightens them more than the murder. There is one thing that happens in the Red Keep that night that nobody reports to Cersei, because the only witness is a child, and nobody listens to children. A scullery girl named Weasel, 9 years old, all elbows and terror, takes a wrong turn fleeing the kitchens and runs straight into the shadow in a servant's passage. She does the only thing her body knows how to do. She freezes, and she shuts her eyes, and she waits to die. The cold rolls over her. She feels it, the killing cold that stopped Pycelle's heart in his chest. It comes up to the edge of her, and it stops. When she opens her eyes, the corridor is empty, and there is frost on the walls in the shape of a man who is no longer there, and she is alive. She will spend the rest of her life not understanding it. But the thing that was Eddard Stark walked past a frightened northern-born child in a Lannister kitchen and did not touch her. And somewhere under the stone and the red light, something that used to be a father made a distinction between the guilty and the small. Bran, watching through a weirwood 1,000 miles away, sees it happen and says nothing about it to the Raven, because it frightens him more than the killing does. The weapon is supposed to be a weapon. A weapon that spares a scullery maid is a weapon with something left inside it. And a thing with something left inside it can be reached. And a thing that can be reached can be lost. He files it away. He tells himself it means nothing. He is wrong, and part of him already knows he is wrong. In the royal apartments, Cersei has stopped pretending to be calm. Cersei says to Jaime, "It's a demon. It wears his skin, but it is not him. We killed him, Jaime. I watched the head come off. I watched it fall into the basket. You do not come back from that. Nobody comes back from that." Jaime answers, "If it bleeds, I can kill it. I have killed everything I have ever crossed swords with. That is the one thing I am actually good at." Cersei says, "That's the whole horror of it. It doesn't bleed. Pycelle didn't bleed. Slint bled, but the thing didn't. It doesn't fight, Jaime. It doesn't besiege. It just arrives." The guards stop shouting, and then there's quiet, and then someone is dead, and it's already gone. Jaime says, "Then we don't wait in a box for it to arrive. We take the children and we get out. Let it have the throne room and the tunnels and the whole cursed city. A castle is just a very expensive coffin if the thing you're hiding from is already inside the walls." For once in their lives, Cersei Lannister agrees with her brother on the first try. Act 3, The Ghost of the Kingsroad. Ned Stark leaves King's Landing on foot. He takes no horse, he takes no food, no water, no cloak against the weather, because he is past all of it now. He simply walks out through a postern gate that 3 gold cloaks were guarding an hour ago and are not guarding anymore, and he turns west, and he does not stop. Behind him, he leaves a capital that has come unstrung. Joffrey is still king in name, but the boy will not leave his chambers. He has the fires kept roaring day and night, and still swears he can see his father in honor standing in the cold corners of every room, watching him with red eyes, saying nothing. He screams at shadows. He has a serving girl beaten for letting a candle gutter. The court begins, very quietly, to make other plans. The court that Joffrey rules is falling apart around him, and the way it falls apart would be funny if it were not so grim. The new small council cannot get a full meeting to sit. Lord Giles develops a cough that requires him to be anywhere else. The Master of Laws discovers urgent business in the Vale. A stream of lesser lords remember, all at once, that their holdfasts need them, and ride out through gates that used to require the king's leave and now require only the courage to walk past guards who are not entirely sure they will be there in the morning. Varys says to Joffrey, "Your Grace, the Treasury reports that 17 members of the court have departed the capital in the last 3 days, citing, and I do quote the letters faithfully, the heir." Joffrey repeats, "The heir." Varys says, "The heir, Your Grace. It has apparently become disagreeable to 17 separate lords, independently, at the same time." Joffrey says, "They're cowards, every one of them. When the thing is dealt with, I'll have their heads for abandoning their king. Write that down. Write it down, eunuch." Varys answers, "I shall commit it to memory, which I find these days is the only ledger nobody can steal, freeze, or leave a leaf inside of." It is the closest the spider comes, in the whole of this tale, to a joke. And he makes it because he has already decided he will be on a ship to Pentos within the fortnight. And a man who has decided to run can afford to be witty on his way out the door. Joffrey himself will not leave his chambers. He keeps every fire in the room roaring, 3 braziers and the hearth, until the air shimmers with heat. And still he shivers. And still he swears he sees a gray figure with red eyes standing in the cold corners where the firelight cannot reach. He has a serving girl beaten bloody for letting a single candle gutter. He sleeps with a crossbow he does not know how to load. The most powerful boy in the world has become a prisoner of the one room he trusts, and he does not understand that the thing he is afraid of is not even coming for him. That in the whole bloody ledger of the Silent Wolf, Joffrey Baratheon is not important enough to make the list. That, in the end, is the cruelest thing done to Joffrey in this story. He is not hunted. He is skipped. Ned's road runs through the Riverlands, and everywhere it runs, the war changes. Lannister foraging parties, the ones that have spent a year burning villages and drowning small folk in their own wells, start turning up wrong. Not cut down the way Northern cavalry would cut them down. Turned into monuments. A dozen men on a road, standing exactly where they stood, spears still up, faces still fixed, every one of them dead of a cold so sudden their armor cracked from it. Sir Amory Lorch, Tywin's most brutish captain, the kind of man kept precisely for the work honorable men refuse, meets the Silent Wolf at a river crossing. His whole company of 50 is found in perfect formation, spears high, hearts stopped, ice rhyming the insides of their helms. Amory Lorch himself is at the center, impaled on his own banner, the golden lion of the standard soaked through with a black, stony liquid that no maester can name. There are witnesses now. There are always witnesses, because the Silent Wolf lets a few live. The runners, the cowards, the ones who throw down their spears and flee. He does not touch them. He wants them to run. He wants them to carry the story west, because fear travels faster than any army, and fear is the first weapon he wields. At Harrenhal, Tywin Lannister reads the reports. He is the most feared man in Westeros, and he does not frighten. And he reads the reports the way he reads everything, coldly, looking for the shape underneath. His outriders have been vanishing one by one, and when he lays the markers on the map, they do not vanish at random. They vanish in a line. A single, straight, deliberate line pointing west at the heart of his own power. Tywin says to Kevan, "This is not an army. Look at the map, Kevan. An army spreads, forages, leaves a front. This leaves a line. One thing is doing this. One. Eddard Stark has become a weapon, and a weapon has a target, and the target is not this ruin. It is the rock. If it reaches the west before I do, it cuts the head off our house while our armies are 300 miles away, chasing the young wolf through the riverlands." Kevan answers, "The men are saying it's the dead come walking. They're saying Stark can't be killed. Half the camp won't stand a night watch alone." Tywin says, "The men will say anything. What matters is that they will run, and a running army is worth nothing to me. It is on foot and we are horsed. We can still reach the Golden Tooth ahead of it and seal the only pass into the west behind us. We hold the gateway with stone and steel and let it break itself on the walls, because whatever else that thing is, it is walking, and a wall is a wall. I am not going to fight a ghost in the open. I will fight it where I choose." It is the correct decision. It is exactly what he should do. And it does not matter at all, because the Silent Wolf is not a problem that correct decisions can solve. And Tywin Lannister is about to learn the one lesson his whole life has denied him, that there are forces in the world that do not care how clever you are. Now, back to it. Act 4, The Girl on the Road. This story has stayed with monsters and lords for 3 acts. Now it comes down to the mud of the kingsroad, to the only person in Westeros who both loved Eddard Stark and saw with her own eyes what he became. A scrawny girl pretending to be a boy, marching north with a chain of Night's Watch recruits, and with no idea that the road she walks and the road her father walks are, slowly, becoming the same road. Yoren's column is a miserable, half-starved, entirely human thing, and it is the warmest part of this whole cold story, which is exactly why it belongs here. There is a bull-necked apprentice smith named Gendry who has worked out that Aerie is a girl inside a week and says nothing about it, which is the closest thing to gallantry the boy knows how to manage. Gendry says to Arya, "You hold your sword like you're stabbing a pig." Arya answers, "I hold it like Syrio taught me, which is more than anyone taught you, so shut up." Gendry says, "Whoever Syrio is, he taught you to stab pigs. I made swords for 3 years. I know what a killing grip looks like, and that's a pig-sticking grip, my lady." Arya says, "Call me that again, and I'll show you the grip on your neck." And there is a fat, kind, endlessly frightened baker's boy named Hot Pie, who is bad at everything except bread and cries at night and is, against all sense, the one who keeps the group from falling apart because he shares his food and remembers everyone's name and worries about them out loud. Hot Pie says to Arya, "They're saying the dead walk in the Riverlands now." A man at the last village said a whole company of Lannister men got turned to ice standing up. Standing up. Do you think it's true? I don't want it to be true. I've decided not to believe it. If you don't believe a thing, it can't get you. That's what my mum said. Arya answers, "Your mum sounds like she got. Hot Pie says, "That's a horrible thing to say." Arya says, "She probably didn't though. Get got. Probably." Hot Pie says, "Thank you." It is not much of a comfort, and they both know it, but Arya is 9 and hard as a nail already, and it is the closest she can come to being kind, and Hot Pie takes it, because on this road you take what warmth you can find. And then, in the 4th week, they find the crossing. 50 Lannister men in perfect formation, spears still up, hearts stopped, frost still rhyming the insides of their helms, though the day is warm. Amory Lorch on his own banner. The whole column of recruits goes silent, and grown men who have killed for a living make signs against evil, and Hot Pie is sick into the ditch, and Yoren stands looking at it for a long time with his jaw working. But Arya Stark walks in among the frozen dead where nobody else will go, and she looks at how they died, the order of them, the way not one of them got a spear down, the single clean line the killer walked through the middle, and she is the only living soul who understands what she is looking at, because she watched it start on the steps of Baelor's sept. Arya says to Yoren, "He was here." Yoren answers, "Girl, get out of there." Arya says, "My father was here. This is him. He doesn't..." Look, none of them ran. None of them even got their spears down. He went straight through the middle and out the other side and never stopped walking. He's not fighting the war, Yoren. He's just going somewhere. West. He's going west. Yoren says, "Then we thank every god there is that we're going north, and we go faster." Arya does not answer. She is looking west, down the road her father walked, and something on her face is not fear. She has spent every night since the sept whispering a list of names into the dark. Joffrey, Cersei, the Hound, Ilyn Payne, a little prayer of people she means to kill. And standing in a field of men her father froze, she understands for the first time that someone is saying her prayer for her. Someone is out there, crossing every name off the list. And she does not know whether that makes her want to run from him or run to him. And that question is going to sit in her chest all the way to the end of this story. Act 5, The Price of the Future. This part of the story does not happen in the South. It happens 1,000 miles north, and it happens outside of time. And it is the only part where anyone speaks the truth about what is really going on. This does not happen in the same year as the rest. It happens later, years later, in a future that this act is reaching back out of. Far beyond the wall, in a cave grown through with the roots of a weirwood older than the first men, a crippled young man sits with his eyes rolled back to the whites, and beside him, half fused to the throne of roots, is the ancient thing the free folk call the three-eyed raven, the last greenseer, a face grown into the wood. Bran Stark has not walked since he was 7, and he has seen more of the world, and more of the worlds that never were, than any man who ever lived, and what he has seen has broken something in him that used to be mercy. From here, from this later dark, he has reached back down the years to the steps of Baelor's sept and changed what happened there. He is the one who did this. He is the architect of the thing walking west with his father's face. Bran says to the three-eyed raven, "It is done. The timeline holds. The dishonor of the South has been answered by the vengeance of the earth, and the vessel is moving, and the lions are dying in the order I chose. Everything is exactly where it needs to be." The raven answers, "Everything is never exactly where it needs to be, boy. That is the first thing the sight should have taught you. You reached into a grave and stole a soul that had earned its rest. You took the most honorable man of his age and you hollowed him out and filled him with winter. You are proud of it. That is what frightens me. Not that you did it, but that you are proud. Bran says, "You've shown me the alternative. You showed me yourself. I have watched the world end in blue fire more times than I can count. I have watched the dead take Winterfell and King's Landing and everything after, in every branch where the realm stays divided and the lions and the wolves bleed each other white while the true enemy walks south. Honor is a summer dream. It got my father killed on those steps in 10,000 timelines. In this one, it made him a weapon that can actually win. Tell me that is worse than the blue fire." The raven says, "I am telling you there is a price. There is always a price, and the sight never shows you the whole of it in advance. That is the cruelty of it, and the mercy. You have not saved your father, Brandon. You have spent him. And a thing that is spent does not come back to you when the spending is done." The raven says, "Then let me show you the branch you are not looking at. Every time a greenseer has reached into the world and moved a piece by force, the world has moved a different piece back in a place he did not think to watch. You are so fixed on the lions that you have not asked the only question that matters. When the debt is paid, when the last name is crossed off and there is nothing left in the South to kill, what does the weapon do then? A blade does not sheath itself, Brandon. Someone has to sheath it. Have you asked yourself whether you are strong enough? Have you asked yourself what it costs to reach out and stop a thing that is wearing your father's face when the moment comes, as it will come, when it turns and looks at you?" Bran says, "It won't turn on me. It's my father." The raven answers, "It is not your father. You keep saying the words to comfort yourself, and they are the most dangerous words in this cave. You told me an hour ago it was a vessel, a weapon, a thing of stone. Now, when I ask you the hard question, suddenly it is your father again. Choose, boy. It cannot be both. And the not choosing is going to be the thing that undoes you." Bran does not answer that, because some part of him already knows it is true, and knowing it is the price he has decided to pay. He looks north through 1,000 weirwoods toward the wall, toward the thing marching south with an army of blue-eyed dead, and he tells himself that whatever the silent wolf costs, it costs less than the long night. He has to believe that. It is the only thing holding him together. Far to the south, in Winterfell, Catelyn Stark wakes in the dark from a dream she did not choose. In the dream, she is standing in the snow of the Godswood, and Ned is there, and for one breath her heart leaps, because he is alive, he is home, it was all a lie, and he is home. Then she sees the black vines holding his head to his neck, and the red sap weeping from his eyes where tears should be, and she feels him look at her, and the love in that look is real, it is entirely real, and it is so cold that it stops her heart mid-beat, and she wakes with frost on her lips in a warm room. She does not tell anyone what she saw, but at dawn she goes to find her son, and her voice, when she finds it, is not steady. Catelyn says to Robb, "Your father is coming home, Robb." Robb answers, "Mother, father is dead. The bird came from King's Landing. They took his head. We have grieved him. You cannot do this to yourself." Catelyn says, "I know what the bird said. I know what they did. And I am telling you he is coming home. And I am telling you to pray to every god you know that when he arrives, he still remembers which of us he loved. Because the thing I saw in the snow last night was your father. But it was also winter, and I do not know, Robb. I do not know if there is enough of the first one left inside the second one to know your face." Robb Stark does not know what to do with that, so he does what young lords do with things they cannot fight. He turns it into a report. In the days that follow, the ravens from the south stop making sense to him. Lannister forces he has been maneuvering against for months simply evaporate, recalled west towards something no scout can describe. Whole hosts abandon strong positions overnight. His bannermen bring him stories, frozen companies, a fortress gate cut in half, the Golden Tooth fallen in a single night to no army at all. And Robb Stark, who is winning this war, feels it slipping out of his hands into the hands of something he does not understand. Robb says, "Every man I send west comes back with the same tale, and none of them can look me in the eye when they tell it. My own scouts, mother, hard men. They say the word Stark now the way you'd say a curse. Some of them think it's me, that I sent it, that the king in the north calls the dead up out of the ground and points them at his enemies." Catelyn asks, "And what do you tell them?" Robb answers, "I tell them it's a lie, because it has to be. Because if I say the other thing out loud, that it's my father, that my dead father is walking to Casterly Rock and freezing armies on the way, then I'm the mad boy king who believes in ghosts, and I lose them all by morning." He is quiet a moment. "But you believe it. You've believed it since you woke up screaming. Tell me true, mother. Do we want him to reach the rock? Or do we want someone to stop him first?" Catelyn Stark has no answer for her son. That, more than anything the Silent Wolf does in the South, is the real wound of this story. A family that can no longer tell whether the thing coming home to them is a rescue or a horror, and cannot say out loud which one they are praying for. Act 6. The Fall of the West. The Golden Tooth is the gate to the west, a fortress wedged in a mountain pass that no army has ever forced, and Tywin Lannister holds it with 10,000 men, scorpions on the walls, cauldrons of boiling pitch, and the best armed host left in the west. Ned Stark arrives at the gate alone, at midnight, in a tattered gray cloak, carrying a sword that seems to drink the light out of the stars. The archers on the wall do what archers do. 1,000 arrows go up, and 1,000 arrows come down, and they find him. Chest, shoulders, throat, the side of his face. And they do nothing. They shatter against petrified skin like sticks thrown against a cliff. And he does not slow, and he does not flinch, and he does not stop. And there is a particular kind of silence that falls over a wall full of soldiers when they empty their quivers into a man, and the man keeps walking. He reaches the main gate. The ironwood doors are as thick as a man is tall, banded and bolted with black iron, and they have held against battering rams and siege towers since the age of heroes. He raises ice, and with one silent stroke, he cuts them in half. What happens inside is not a battle. A battle has two sides. This has one side and one harvest. The Silent Wolf goes through the Lannister ranks the way a reaper goes through a field of wheat. And the terrible thing, the thing the survivors will wake up screaming about for the rest of their lives, is the quiet of it. No war cries, no challenges, no mercy offered and none refused, because to refuse mercy, you have to be asked, and nobody in that courtyard has time to ask. Every stroke of ice takes a head. The cold rolls off him in a wave, and men die of it before the blade ever reaches them. Frost blooming across breastplates, breath freezing in throats. Sir Stafford Lannister, who is supposed to be raising a fresh host in the west and has ridden to the Tooth to see the monster for himself, tries the one thing a knight knows how to do. He couches a lance and charges. Ned Stark catches the warhorse by the muzzle. He stops a galloping destrier dead with one hand and twists, and the animal's neck breaks, and horse and rider go down together in a crash of dying meat and bent steel. Ned steps over the thrashing horse and takes Stafford's head with a backhand stroke, so casual it is almost an afterthought. High on the fortress wall, Tywin Lannister watches his 10,000 break. He watches them throw down good spears and run into the dark, screaming that the dead have come for the West. He watches a lifetime of careful, ruthless work, the reputation, the fear, the machine of House Lannister that he built out of nothing but will. He watches it come apart in a single night against one walking man. Tywin says to Kevan, he's clearing the board, piece by piece, in order, exactly as I would. He is not slaughtering, he is subtracting. Every man he kills here is a man who cannot stand between us later. He is not trying to beat my army. He is removing it, so that when he reaches me, there is nothing left in the room but the two of us. He does not run in a panic. Tywin Lannister has never panicked in his life, and he does not start now. He withdraws, cold, ordered, deliberate, toward Casterly Rock, leaving what remains of his army to be consumed behind him, because a commander who cannot win a battle can still choose the ground of the last one. By now, the realm has gone mad in every direction at once. Robert is long dead. Stannis and Renly are tearing at each other in the south. Robb Stark is winning battle after battle in the Riverlands and cannot understand why the Lannister forces in front of him keep thinning out, keep getting recalled west, keep looking over their shoulders at something that is not him. Nobody has told the young wolf that his father is walking toward Casterly Rock. He would not believe it if they did. And the West itself has become a tomb. The richest land in Westeros, and its roads are empty, its holdfasts shuttered, its people fled to the coast or barricaded in their cellars, praying to gods who have clearly stopped listening. Between the Golden Tooth and Casterly Rock, there is a stretch of road that the survivors will later call the Grey Mile, and what happens on it is the reason no Lannister levy will ever again answer a horn. Sir Kevan Lannister, Tywin's brother, the steady hand, the man who has spent 40 years making his brother's will into reality, tries to rally the broken remnants of the Tooth's garrison at a walled town on that road. He is good at it, he is calm, and he is kind in the flat, practical way of a man who has buried a great deal. And for one night, he actually holds 2,000 frightened men together with nothing but his voice and his name. Kevan says to his men, "You've all heard it's the dead. It is not the dead. It is one man, and one man can be stopped, because one man can only be in one place. We put a wall between us and it. We put fire between us and it. We do the things soldiers have always done, and we do them together, and we hold. Fear is the only weapon it truly has. Do not hand it the only weapon it has." It is a good speech. It is true, or it would be true against anything human. And at midnight, the torches on the wall go blue, one by one, from the north end to the south, and the men watching them gutter understand that the cold is already inside the wall they built, and Kevan Lannister's 2,000 come apart like a rope with the strands cut. Kevan himself lives because the Silent Wolf lets him live, the way it let the runners on the kingsroad live. It walks past him in the chaos and their eyes meet. The steady old soldier and the red-eyed thing wearing a face he sat across a war council from a dozen times. And Kevan Lannister, who does not frighten, sits down in the mud and does not get up for a long while, because he has seen the future of his house in those eyes, and there is no house in it. Ned Stark reaches Casterly Rock. It is the most secure fortress in the world, carved down into the living stone of a mountain over 3,000 years, and it has never once fallen. Tywin has sealed every gate, walled up every mine tunnel, posted a guard at every possible way in. It should be impossible. It is impossible. It does not matter. Down in the lower halls, 2 guardsmen stand a doorway that leads nowhere important, and they have been standing it long enough to talk themselves into and out of terror 3 times over. One guard says to another, "They say it walked through the Golden Tooth's main gate. Ironwood banded with steel. Cut it in half like a cheese." The second guard answers, "Then what in the 7 hells is my spear for, against a thing that halves a gate?" The first guard says, "Company, mostly, so you don't die on your own." He thinks about it. Small comfort, that. The second guard says, "It's no comfort at all, is what it is." The first guard answers, "No, it isn't." They are, in their way, the truest voices in the whole story. Two frightened men who know their spears are useless and stand the post anyway, because the alternative is running, and there is nowhere left to run. A little while later, the corridor above them goes quiet, one torch at a time, and then their corridor goes quiet too, and they never do get to use the spears. Tywin sits in his solar with a cup of arbor gold he is not drinking and a loaded crossbow he knows is useless. And beside him stands Jaime, who fled the ruin of the capital not to save himself, but to stand between this thing and his father, which is the most purely brave act of his life, and he knows it will not be enough. Jaime says to Tywin, "It's inside, father. I don't know how. Every gate is sealed. I checked them myself. But I can hear it. Not footsteps. The opposite of footsteps. The guards on the lower levels have gone quiet, one corridor at a time, moving up. You can track it by the silence. It's climbing toward us, and it is not in any hurry at all." Tywin answers, "Then it wants to be certain I know it's coming. Good. A thing that wants me afraid is a thing that still has something to prove, and a thing with something to prove can make mistakes. Go to your sister, Jaime. Take Tommen and Myrcella. Take the fastest ship in Lannisport, and go. If I cannot end this here, then House Lannister ends elsewhere, in your children, far from this, and that is a victory too. The only one left." Jaime says, "I'm not leaving you to face it alone." Tywin says, "You are the future of this house. I am its past. This is not a hard sum, even now. Go." Jaime turns for the door, and Eddard Stark is standing in it. He looks worse than the reports. His gray hair has gone the white of old bone. His skin is a mosaic of black obsidian and pale killing frost. Ice hangs from his hand, and the blade is dripping something that looks like molten gold. The last of the Lannister blood he has taken on the long climb up through the rock. Jaime draws his sword. His face is pale, and his hand is not quite steady, but his eyes do not look away, and there is a kind of doomed grace in the way he sets himself between the monster and his father. Jaime says to the Silent Wolf, "You want a soul to drag down to whatever hell made you? Take mine. I'm the one who pushed your boy from the tower at Winterfell. That was me, Stark, my hand, and I'd tell you I was sorry, but you'd know it for a lie. I bedded your queen. I put the horns on your king. Every sin your house ever needed avenged, I am the one who did it. So take me. Take me and let the old man draw his last breath as a man and not a statue." For one long moment, the red eyes rest on Jaime Lannister, and something moves behind them. Not mercy, but something older. Something that might once have been the memory of a man who understood a son trying to die for his father. Because Eddard Stark had sons. Eddard Stark would have done exactly this, stood exactly here, put his own body between a monster and his boy. And some buried splinter of that man recognizes the shape of what Jaime is doing and, for half a heartbeat, honors it. Jaime sees it. He is the only person in this entire story who catches that flicker and understands what it is. And being Jaime, he cannot leave it alone. Jaime says, There it is. You're still in there, aren't you, Stark? Some of you. Enough of you to know what this is. So look at me and tell me, the Honorable Ned Stark, the man who wouldn't lie to save his own head, is this what you'd have wanted? To be dug up and pointed like a crossbow? To freeze a boy who's only trying to buy his father one more breath? Is this honor? Or is this just your son doing to you exactly what my father spent his whole life doing to me, using you because you were useful, and calling it love? The red eyes do not blink, but the cold in the room falters. For just a moment, the frost creeping across the floor stops creeping. And in that moment, the thing that was Eddard Stark is closer to being a man than it has been since the steps of Baelor's Sept. And then, 1,000 miles north, a crippled boy in a cave feels his weapon hesitate and reaches out and takes hold and closes the man back down into the monster like a hand closing over a candle flame. The frost resumes. Then Ned moves. Jaime Lannister is one of the finest swords in the history of the Seven Kingdoms. It makes no difference at all. Their blades meet once, and Jaime's shatters at the crossguard on the first impact. Ned drives the pommel of ice into his chest, and ribs break, and the Kingslayer is thrown the length of the solar into the far wall. But Ned does not take his head. He crosses to where Jaime lies broken and gasping, and he lays one petrified finger against the man's forehead, almost gently, almost like a blessing, and a pillar of black ice climbs up out of the floor and closes over Jaime Lannister and holds him there, alive, frozen, a golden knight sealed in dark glass, with his eyes still open and still moving. Alive. That is the horror of it. Ned Stark did not kill him. He kept him. Then the Silent Wolf turns to Tywin. Act 7. The End of the Lion. Tywin Lannister stands up from his chair. He does not reach for the crossbow. He looks at the thing that was once Eddard Stark, a man he beat at every turn while he lived, a man he found so easy to read and easier to trap. And there is no fear in his face, because fear was trained out of him before he was Jaime's age. But there is something underneath it that is almost worse, and it is understanding. Tywin says to the Silent Wolf, "You've won. I'll say it plainly because I've never wasted breath on comforting lies, and I won't start at the end. You destroyed my army without a battle. You froze my son in his own hall. You have made my legacy into a graveyard, and my legacy was the only thing I ever truly loved. It's done. You've won." Ned Stark says nothing. His tongue is stone. He cannot answer even if some buried part of him wanted to. Tywin says, "But look at yourself. Look at what won. You were the one man in this realm I could not corrupt. Not with gold, not with fear, not with your own daughters, though I confess we came close with the daughters. And here you are, a puppet. Some far-off god reached down and hollowed out Ned Stark and wears him like a glove. And the honor I could never break, he simply deleted. You didn't defeat me, creature. You proved my whole life's argument. There is no honor. There is only power. And who is willing to be the monster? Your son understood that. He turned you into the very thing I always said the world was made of. Tell me, does the ice feel like winning?" Ned Stark crosses the room. He does not raise ice. He does not need it. Not for this. He places one hand on Tywin Lannister's shoulder. The temperature in the solar falls past cold, past frost, down toward the absolute deep of the space between stars. Tywin's gold-trimmed robes stiffen and whiten. The wine in his cup becomes a red stone. He does not cry out. He will not give it that. Not even now. But his green eyes widen as the cold climbs into his chest, and the last thing that crosses the face of the most powerful man in Westeros is not fear and not defiance. It is recognition. He has finally met a force that cannot be bought, bargained with, or beaten, and it is standing in his solar, wearing the face of the one honest man he ever knew. And some terrible part of him understands that this is the only kind of justice the world had left to offer him. Tywin Lannister turns to crystal, and his heart beats once more and stops. And a voice moves through the room that does not come from Ned's stone mouth. It comes from the air itself, from the frost on the walls, from far away and years from now all at once. Bran says, "The debt is paid, Lord Tywin. The lion is out." The balcony doors blow inward. A young man stands there, who was not there a moment ago. Bran, as the years beyond the cave will make him, his eyes gone the flat white of a blind seer, his skin the pale of weirwood bark, his body hovering a hand's breadth above the floor. Ravens pour in around him, a black storm of them, filling the solar with wings. Bran says to his father, "Father, you finished the work. The south is purged. The lions are stone. Every debt on the board is settled in the order I set them." Ned Stark turns toward his son. He tilts his head, slowly, and one crimson tear wells up and falls from a red eye and strikes the stone floor and shatters like a dropped ruby. The only thing in this entire story that Eddard Stark does that looks, for half a heartbeat, like grief. And Bran, who reached into a grave and pulled his father out of it, looks at what he made. And for the first time since the cave, there is a flicker of something on his young old face that might be the beginning of the price the Raven promised him. Bran says, "The Night King is at the wall. He has been marching south since the day I changed the timeline, and he does not know, he cannot know, that winter has already come to the south ahead of him, that there is something already down here that is colder than he is." Ned Stark raises his head, and the red eyes turn north, toward the wall, toward the true enemy, toward the only war that was ever really coming. Bran says, "To the north, father. We have a world to freeze before he can." The ravens rise all at once, 10,000 wings, and the solar goes black with them. And when they clear, the two figures are gone, and Casterly Rock is a tomb of gold and ice, with a crystal lion sitting dead in his chair, and a frozen knight standing sentinel in the dark forever. But the story does not end in the rock. It ends on a road. Because Yoren's column has come up the Kingsroad to the great Crossroads Inn, the place where the road north meets the road that runs west toward the Lannister lands, and a scrawny girl in boy's clothes has slipped out past the picket in the night, the way she does now, drawn down the western road she knows her father walked. She is standing alone at the crossroads under a cold moon when she feels it. The temperature drops, the frost blooms on the grass, and she does not run. Arya Stark turns around, and there, on the road, is the thing with her father's face. The west is a tomb behind it. Its work there is done, and now it is moving north and east toward the wall and the war that is actually coming. And its road home runs through this crossroads, as every road in the north someday does. It is stopped in front of a 9-year-old girl, the way it stopped in front of a scullery maid in the Red Keep, the way it stopped in front of no one else in all its long red road. The red eyes look at her. She looks back. She is not afraid. She is the only living person who has never once been afraid of it. And she does the thing that nobody in this entire tale has dared to do. She talks to it like it is her father. Arya says to the silent wolf, "I saw you on the steps. I saw you stand back up." Her voice cracks, and she does not let it stop her. "Everyone thinks you're a monster. Robb thinks it, and Mother's scared of you. And I heard what you did to all those men. But you didn't touch me. You knew it was me, didn't you? Under there. You knew." The silent wolf does not speak. It cannot. But it lifts one petrified hand, slowly, the way it lifted its own head from the dirt a lifetime ago. And it rests that hand, for one moment, on the top of Arya Stark's head. Cold, but not killing. A father's hand, or the memory of one, worn down to a single gesture that survived everything the grave and the greenseer did to him. Then it turns north, toward the wall, toward the war that is actually coming, and it walks away from her into the dark. And Arya Stark stands at the crossroads with frost in her hair and does not cry, because Starks do not cry where the world can see, but she watches until the dark has swallowed him whole. And far to the north, outside of time, in his cave, Bran Stark sees his father stop for the girl, sees the hand, sees the one thread of the man that neither death nor his own meddling could freeze all the way through. And Bran understands, at last, the price the Raven promised him. He did not turn his father into a weapon. He turned his father into a weapon with one door still open. One person left in all the world it will not harm. One name it will never cross off. And the day that door matters is the day this whole design comes apart in his hands. He does not tell the Raven, but he starts, for the first time, to be afraid of what he built. That's our theory. Bran Stark reached back from the end of the world and turned the most honorable man in Westeros into a weapon of pure winter. And it worked. The lions are extinguished. But look at what it cost. A father spent like coin, a son who has stopped feeling the spending, and a realm that traded one kind of tyrant for something far colder. Did Bran save the world, or did he just make sure the thing that ends it will be wearing his father's face? If this gets 4,000 likes, we will make part 2, The Weirwood King. Tell us in the comments, was Bran right to raise him? Until then, remember, the night is dark and the North remembers.